What's up, everybody? It's Adam. Welcome back to another review. This time I'm doing something I haven't done before, and that is a comparison between two e-bikes. We got the HeyBike Ranger S 1000 watt motor, and we got the Aventon Sinch 2 500 watt motor models. Now, they were both provided for review. I didn't get paid to review these or anything. The companies were gracious enough to give me a bike so I can do a review with. And I've had the HeyBike for a month, and I've had the Sinch 2 since June, but I'm going by a month of usage in my comparison. So I still have a long-term review coming for this bike. All right. Just give me a few months like I did with the Aventon, and that will be out for this bike specifically as far as how long did it last or what do I think about it after a few months of usage. So this is from a 1 month perspective. Now, the biggest reason why I'm doing this, besides popular demand of my subscribers and people asking me in the comments, but the fact that they're both the same price as of right now, Friday, December 20th. I mean, you go to HeyBike's website, the 1000 watt motor version is $13.99 and the Aventon is $13.99. So that's the biggest thing is we can't just use the 1000 watt motor as the only selling point. There are flaws with both of them and pros with both of them. So that's the purpose of this video. Now, number one, now that we got price out of the way, is comfort. That's number one on my list I have on my computer here of what I wanted to talk about. And comfortability, I got to give it to the Aventon with the seating, the handlebars, and really the grippiness of the pedals and the smoothness of how hard do I got to really pedal to get that motor going, even though it's a 500 watt motor. It's such a comfortable ride. I mean, this bike has felt like a true beach cruiser of a step through kind of model bike. There's something about the distance between the seat and the handlebars that felt spacious, a little bit more spacious than the way it felt on the hay bike. And it's really strange. And my feet have slipped off the handle, or not the handlebars, the pedals a few different times, especially when it was wet outside. I mean, it's cold right now outside. And I remember riding this when it got a little rainy versus this one. My feet would slip off the pedals every now and then with the hay bike. And I never had that issue with the Aventon. So I just think I got to go with this with the seating and the handlebars. Just the way it felt was much better on the Aventon overall. Now, next up is battery life. So I got to give it to the HeyBike, even though both of them say 55 miles of range for the max distance output that you're able to do. Funny thing is, this has a 1000 watt motor, as I mentioned, and even at times I pushed it to 4 and 5, those levels where I can hit past 30 miles an hour as long as I didn't ride the bike the whole time with that kind of power output. I got like 2, 3 days of usage before hitting 55 miles of this lasting, even with pushing it. Now, with the Aventon, I feel like 2 days, maybe three, it's already at like 30%, 20%. It seems to drain a little bit quicker, even though the output of the motor is less. So, the other cool thing about the battery is taking the battery out of the HeyBike. I have the ability to turn it off and have that safety mechanism where I don't have that safety mechanism on the Aventon. So that's the other thing about the battery life is I'm shocked that the one with the more stronger, more powerful motor was able to last a bit longer than the Aventon did. So battery life, it has to go to the HeyBike. Now, design and build quality is my next thing I want to talk about. Now, here's the tricky thing. With design and build quality, it's going to the Aventon. It doesn't mean that the HeyBike doesn't look cool. I've gotten complimented on this quite a few times. I have gotten complimented on both, but people love the gold color. Like, I never seen a gold color bike like that. And they like the rims and everything and the spokes of the wheels and whatnot. But the reason why I give design to the Aventon is number one, I like the look more. I like the feel of it more. But overall, I feel like the sturdiness and overall durability has been better just even after months of usage. If I am going to bring up timeline, the HeyBike had problems with the handlebars and with the adjustment. It's come loose on me a couple times, even though I've tightened it and did exactly what the instructions I've showed. And that's a safety hazard, you know? But I think to me overall, the reason why that happened is maybe it really was just my fault on not tightening it properly or something the first go around. But if you saw my first impressions, I had an issue with that, but also with the brakes, with the cables. I had to adjust them a couple of times off and on until they finally stopped having a number 5 error, which is the cable error for the brakes. So to me, that just kind of left a bad first impression on building and putting together the bike. and it was just a little bit more difficult with this bike than the Aventon. So that's why I got to go with when it just comes to design and build quality. I feel more confident with the Aventon lasting longer than the Hay bike and how it rode, and also just the compatibility of putting it together. It's just a little bit harder with the Hay bike. So I just feel more confident in long term durability with the Aventon. Truthfully, even though it's like back and forth, I got to give the lights to the Hay bike. I mean, they have turn signal lights on the front and the back, which is so helpful at night because people can't really see you doing turn signals. And it's bad enough a lot of people don't know this is a right turn signal. Well, this is I'm facing you if we're at a stoplight and I go like this. That means I'm going right. And not a lot of people know that, let alone can even see it at night. Even with my lights on, they can't really see that. So the fact that there's a turn signal on the front and the back, and also there's a light, a switch where you can have it auto off and auto on so you don't have to think about it. And it's more of a manual process too of turning on those lights. So not only are they brighter, as you can see in the example in the comparison, but I like how you have a manual switch to turn them off and on. Whereas on the Aventon, you have to hold the up button on the gear selector, on the power motor selector to turn it on. And just that little difference of being able to instantly boom, boom, you got lights on. It's just so much better. And they look better, they're brighter. It's just really cool. And I like the little hay bike illumination too. So it's not saying you're not going to see anything when you have the lights on with the Aventon, but overall, you're seeing better with the hay bike. Now, power and ease of use. Of course, it's going to go to the hay bike as well because it's an 1,000-watt motor that you're getting for the same price as the Aventon. And the ease of use is much better in terms of the gear selection. You have 5 levels of power motor gear selection, 1 through 5, versus 4. Well, technically, you could just have it off, but there's 4. There's Eco, there's Tour, there's, I forgot the fourth one, Sport, and then there's Turbo. That's what it is. That's the 4 with the Aventon. So you have multiple levels, and it's a stronger motor on the hay bike. So power and ease of use, yes, is going to go to the hay bike for the price. The only thing is that I got to say is with pedaling really, really fast again, you are going to drain through the battery faster, but hey, it makes for a funner ride. I've been hitting well over 30 miles per hour easy on this thing. And even with going that fast, the bike is not shaky. It's not like it's a scary ride or anything. It does feel comfortable, just not as comfortable as the Aventon. But I got to tell you, the power is just nuts. Like if you're really looking at a bike that's just going to get you from point A to point B, and not just worrying about comfort. I mean, maybe it might be more comfortable for you, but you're like, yo, I just got to get there as fast as I can. You got to go with the hay bike with the power and the ease of use in terms of the gear selection, and just you're going to get there faster, period. Now, when it comes to foldability and really the weight difference, so 300-pound max payload with the Aventon, 68 pounds in weight, and the hay bike, the Ranger S, is 72 pounds with a 400-pound max payload. So yes, you get 100 pounds more you can carry on this bike, but the foldability is easier on the Aventon. And I like how much more simple the cable management is. Never had issues with the cables, and it's easier to fold overall. I feel like I don't know what it is with the joints of bending this bike in half or those extra 4 pounds, even though it's not that much of a weight difference, it's just harder to fold overall. And I'm like, well, maybe that comes with the fact that I've folded this so many more times that the joints have gone more lubricated or more loose. But that's not how I remember it. Like I just remember this being an easier bike to fold, period. In terms of the handlebars going down and the compactability of this bike and how much easier it is to lift and whatnot when it's folded compared to the hay bike. Now, I don't know. If you had it in your hands, it'd probably be a different story to you on where you're going to put it. You know what I mean? Like, where are you going to fit this? Like, I haven't done a comparison on which one fits better in a cross trek or nothing like that. But to me, just that initial step is better on the Aventon. Now, here's something really interesting about both bikes that I feel like is tough to make a comparison on. The hay bike has a horn. All the switches are manual when it comes to the lights, turning them on and off, and also with the turn signals. But there's a lot of times I forgot to hit the turn signal off because I was so used to the hay bike just turning off automatically. I kind of wish there was an option for that, or maybe a button where you push it in and it turns the signal on, and then yeah, it goes off after a few seconds, like the Aventon, because then I don't have to think about it again. But also the button placement of the turn signals is right above the horn, and there's so many times, especially when I had gloves on, I'd be turning the turn signal on left or right, and I would honk the horn, and I'd be walking past people, or I'd be riding the bike past people, or I'd be at a stoplight. People think I'm like honking at them. I'm like, oh no, it was my mistake of the turn signal. Whereas I don't deal with that with the Aventon because you just press it once and then I don't have to think about it. But again, the lights are just better on the hay bike. So that's a really frustrating one to me. I would say when it comes to the controls and the wiring and the cable management and all this and that with how simple it is, I give it to the Aventon because even though there's the horn and it's more manual with the turn signals and the lights on this bike, it was just easier overall and comfortability with the Aventon again. But given that these are the same price, even though the Aventon seems like it's winning, it still goes to the HeyBike overall for me as the top winner because of the power, the turn signals, the lights being better, and just given that I feel like the tires it came with are more durable, especially during the winter months. It came with better tires too. And the fenders seem to be blocking a little bit more water than the Aventon did. Um, Another thing too, when I think about comfortability of the ride, is the shocks are pretty fun on the HeyBike. It's just it's a little bit more bouncy on this bike than I would like it to be compared to the Aventon. The Aventon, when I go over bumps, it's just like, you know, really short and sweet, where the hay bike is a little bit more like that, if that makes sense. Gosh, this is such a weird comparison the way I'm doing this, but I'm just trying to really explain the experience, and overall, I do got to give it to the hay bike for the price. Even though I love Aventon, and Aventon, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean I'm not grateful for this bike. But when I compare as it stands right now with pricing, that's the biggest reason why I'm going with the hay bike on what I would buy if there was any bike I would buy between these two. So maybe if the hay bike had the comfortability of the Aventon, that's the one thing I wish this bike had that this one has, the Aventon. If there was an 1,000 watt motor on this Cinch 2, I would go with this bike by far. I mean, if there's anything Aventon, if you're watching, if there's anything I got to say, make the motor on the Cinch 2, the next model, at least 750 or 1,000 watts. And this bike is better than this one all day long for the same price, in my opinion. But that's up to you. Like, I mean, you got the style of it, the look of it, this video and what I explained and what my thoughts were to compare it with. So just let me know if you have any other questions in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully this wasn't too shabby on my first comparison review of two of my first e-bikes I ever got. I love both of them, but again, winner for the price is the HeyBike. So we'll see in the future. There's going to be bikes from Aventon and other companies that can be better than both of these, and there's probably some Aventons that are much better than a HeyBike. So it's just the first one. All right. I love y'all. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.